Potter's Journal. I just finished up a pretty good pottery summer studio run, and I would have never predicted it would have happened. Sometimes you just have to throw yourself into it. But today, let's see what's going on outside the studio. Okay, here we are back to the garden. Let's do a garden tour. And there they are, the Steelers Gold Marigolds. This first bed, we'll start here with the Scarlet runner beans that are just reaching up now over the top of the trellis. Okay, they have been beautiful, attracting hummingbirds, but very few beans. There's been tons of bees, very few beans. And in this first bed, in the early spring, you saw the peonies blooming, the irises. I sometimes don't put any vegetables in this and just let the perennial wildflowers that come up by seed fill it. But we have got two long rows of Rutabagas. So these like the cool fall weather. They've got a good start, and I think they will do well here in the fall. I think I got some bad seed for lettuce this year, so that was a disappointment, but there's some Cos lettuce, romaine here mixed in with the dill, which I planted about 3 or 4 times because it's a short crop, and it's something you can always use a lot of. Didn't put much effort into the flowers this year, but we do have a few zinnias. And the squash here, there's some patty pan. About 3 plants of that. Really wasn't very productive. And here's a fall row of zucchini. This is a second crop, and this is just about to start bearing for most people. It kind of finishes up about midsummer, and by planting it again in midsummer, okay, we still have 2 months, September and October, so I think there'll be a lot of zucchini when people have pretty much had their gardens finish up. It's replacing and coming after a row of sugar snap peas, and that's what was over here. They never did better. I think they were in my first garden video this spring. They came up over my head and produced longer than they ever have ever. I've planted a second crop of those. However, the rabbits came in. They didn't bother them in the spring, but they did now. So they ate them back, and I've been covering the burlap at night. And maybe to scare them off, I need to stick some pins in this guy and give them the idea not to come around here. There were some beets here, a lot of things, and there's some parsley, another kind of dill. A lot of things that I maybe only picked 1 or 2 of. 1 turnip, 1 serving of beets. In this next bed, okay, there's actually 4 square beds here. Okay, this is parterre, formal French parterre garden, fashioned after, we'll say, Versailles. Okay, Washington, Jefferson. They got their ideas for gardens from there. My garden's influenced by theirs. I've not visited either. It's on the other side of the state and south a bit. These 4 beds are pretty much planted the same, except this one was planted earliest, the beginning of June, and is doing nothing. Whereas this bed was planted a full month later and just towers above and is green and lush and productive. Well, I used, the organic feed Espoma Hollytone, or not Hollytone, I used the, I didn't have actually garden tone, so I used the bulb tone. But we'll go through with the rows here. They all radiate out from the center pillar there. And, okay, we'll see some storage behind it. But we've got the nasturtiums. There is a mixed row of cabbages, some Savoy, broccoli, which we've got the center one, but now we're getting the side buds. A regular cabbage, some more broccoli. There's a Brussels sprouts on the other side. And the parsley, a whole row of it. There is enough here to make a big tabbouleh salad every week, which I just started doing last week. Since the zucchini were on the break between the first batch and the second. And a row of peppers here. And here it is the jalapenos. They're the only ones that are really, really productive for me. And there is a ton of fruit in there. And then a row of tomatoes, which have towered up above the poles. I only remember an uncle's doing that years ago, and he'd grow them up to the top of the eaves. And it is, let's see, I think the variety's called Black Krim. You're not going to see any ripe ones. They've already been picked. I had some weeds coming up that turned out to be cantaloupe. I couldn't figure out, what is that coming up in the garden? Well, I had had a cantaloupe from the market and tossed it out, and the seeds all came up. Okay, another one of this year's successes is the squash, which is just coming out and out and out. A number of people have sometimes looked at my garden and said, oh, we thought you'd have a big garden. Why is it so small? Well, the garden ends here. There is absolutely no reason to dig up and cultivate for all of this. It can just grow out over the grass. So when people don't have enough room for a big vining crop, okay, they've got to worry about their precious grass. And I put some okra here in the middle of the bed to tower up over it, which worked out really well, except, okay, I can't get across the squash and close enough to pick it. And I have never had tomatoes like this. And let's see if we can find one that is getting some color. And now that we've got the light, let's see if we can, okay, see if the jalapenos are as productive on the side here where we got the light. One came off, so we will get that into a salad or into an omelet. Another one of those melons that came up from seed. That bed got fed, and the other two beds didn't. And look at that. It is doing nothing over here. The tomato here is a peach tomato. It's a yellow tomato. It's a little bit fuzzy, and it sometimes gets a bit of a blush on it. And although I'm saying nothing's happening, they're not growing in this bed, I have harvested the sage twice. This bed also got fed the aromas, and I think when they come in they will be all at once, so maybe we will be canning or freezing something there. The peppers over here, I'm not fond of the bell peppers, they just don't seem to set fruit. Okay, and more squash here. It's on all four corners and just is allowed to radiate out. I saved my own seeds, so what it is I couldn't say for sure. I was hoping a blue Hubbard. I really like the buttercup, but it is just not productive. It set a ton of fruit, but very few developed. And one night the deer came in and started chewing on the squash. So we've got found an old coat of some kind and threw it over something here and needed some eyes to come out, and the deer didn't come back after that. However, yeah, scarecrows really only work for about a few days, so they need to be moved around. And another really productive thing, the butternut squash, and you've already seen the trombonicas in the last video or two or three, I don't know. There's about a dozen of these here. The first batch I am letting mature for long-term storage. And then some of the later planted ones we'll probably eat. I need to get a compost pile started. I've got a pile here on my sidewalk, which, yeah, that's useful. It makes the garden a lot easier to maintain if you've got a good pathway. And in this last bed, this one has been going on for the longest. You saw me out here in March or in April, where I put a first crop of zucchini under these. And the plan did work. Abundant and early. Stretch the season on something you get a lot of. And I'm just about to pull the last plant out. So this last bed here has got at least 2 crops out of it. There was zucchini in here, there was Swiss chard, there was, I forget what else. So now we are planting it again. I have put in here, I didn't put any mustard in there. I didn't put any Swiss chard in there. What did we put in here? Okay, I put in some lettuce, I put in some pak choy, I put in some endive, let's see, beets, except the rabbits ate most of them. I put some more dill in, spinach, cress. I've never planted that, but this is upland cress, so that's, I guess, different than watercress. And okay, it only takes supposedly about 20 or 30 days for radishes, so I'm going to go through the garden, and everywhere there is room, I am going to plant radishes. Okay, I don't like to walk on my soil, so I put a board down. I have been, since radishes, pretty much every seed comes up rather than thinning them, I have been planting each one individually. They pretty much all come up, and that way you don't have to thin them. Yeah, I don't like to walk on my beds. I've used practically every garden method there is. I like when somebody that's new to gardening at the farm market with the $5 coffee in their hand says, "Oh, do you do this method?" And I guess now the big fad is not to till the soil. I've done pretty much everything over the years, including double dig and the no-till. At one time, I had a piece of plastic on this bed for almost 5 years with peppers under it, and they really liked the heat. But at some point, you do need to, enrich the soil. So this had zucchini in it earlier, and a few other crops. Now we've got radishes, the lettuce, the escarole, the bok choy. Okay, very small. The what was that? Cress. And I don't know what was in there. It's not coming up, and I see some dill there. Usually my peppers are towering over the pathway about this time of year, and peppers just loaded on the plants, falling off. The peppers are there, but I guess there's no plant to support them, and they're just not doing what they normally do. This is Anaheim, mildly hot. Usually, very productive and flavorful compared to some of the others. People grow that Hungarian wax, which is just hot and has no flavor. Here's an Italian heirloom, the Corno di Toro, horn of the bull, but it doesn't look very horn-like today. It could be a bell, because some of those are mixed in here too. And, okay, another scarecrow. You never know, though, when to put them up. They were leaving the peppers alone, and then suddenly they came in and chewed them off on top. So by the time you get the scarecrow up, it's too late. Some netting behind it. And you never know, the rabbit, even when I had it completely buried on all the ends, a rabbit seemed to find it, how to get under it. I have no idea how. And back here, okay, this is where I put the okra. It's not really a crop for where I'm at near Pittsburgh, but and there's the way you're supposed to pick it, between 3 and 5 inches. I remember having it, it was in Turkey at both a resort and a local buffet, and at a Indian restaurant near where I'm at. So it's great as a novelty, but I don't know. I wouldn't want to have to eat it every day like I did with the snap peas and the zucchini. The zucchini is probably the most versatile. I put this here too because it needs the heat. So I've got a little extra sidewalk to the main walk. And the cucumbers that were here were long gone. You saw the pickles. And this space all had double duty back here. That between the peppers is where I planted the onions and the garlic. And they were at about midsummer and made room for the peppers. Here's big successes so far. This winter it'll be the squash. I do have another garden I'll show you sometime with some cabbages in for winter. But the zucchini was the big success. It often gets hit by the squash vine borer. I think the oil sprays maybe helped with that. I don't know. But yeah, you can eat it morning, noon, and night, 3 meals a day. It's great in omelets, and at breakfast you can saute it instead of potatoes. And then it can go in every course of a meal too. The appetizer, soup, salad, the side. It could be the main course of the dish. You saw the zucchini parmesan here. And it can go in the desserts too. So there's still 2 months to come. There'll be a lot more here yet to see. Okay, bees, do your job. I want some beans. The scarlet runners just aren't doing it yet. And the romas. Okay, the seed never got shipped. So when it comes to flowers, it's mostly in nursery pots that I can sell. But I'll say stop back. Maybe I can find a friend with a flower garden we can look at next week. Or maybe we'll see what's going on in the studio next week. Okay, stop back. Let's look for the bunny. Come on. Let's look for him. Where'd he go? Where is that bunny rabbit? Where'd he go?